If companies can't find good employees and job seekers can't find a good job, what are we missing? I call this the big disconnect. I've worked on both sides of the table. In fact, I still do in my consulting firm. I work with companies who are improving their human resources practices, including hiring. And I also work with job seekers, where I like to say I jump to the other side of the interview table to use my human resources experience to help job seekers figure out how to stand out. This is bigger than just a skill gap. It's a fundamental disconnect between hiring and job seeking. This is the first episode in a 3-part series called The Big Disconnect. In this first episode, I will share my thoughts and my experience on why companies are having such a hard time hiring and why job seekers often go unnoticed. In episode 2 of this series, I'm going to dive deep into the 6 mistakes that employers are making, and I'm going to share insights and solutions to help solve this problem. And in episode 3, I'm going to do the same for job seekers. If you're in a job search right now, you're going to want to listen to episode 3, because in this episode, I highlight 6 common mistakes that job seekers are making. And again, I share my wisdom and insights on how to overcome them. In a research study done by LinkedIn, they reported that 69% of companies say they can't find good people. And on the flip side, we know that job seekers are applying to hundreds and hundreds of openings and not getting noticed. So why is this the case? If both sides of the equation have a very strong need, how can we bridge this gap? First, I think it's important for us to determine why it exists. Why are we in this disconnect? Let's start with the company side of the equation. I've had the chance to work for some great companies and a few global nonprofits. And now as an HR consultant, I work with small and medium-sized companies in a variety of states. And I see the same thing over and over. Companies say that they can't find people with a strong work ethic, or they're not a cultural fit, or they don't fit the criteria they're looking for. When jobs go unfilled, we know that there's a huge impact on the business. We know that customers aren't getting service, employee engagement is at risk because people are taking on more than their normal share of work. It's hard for employees and employers to see the light at the end of the tunnel when jobs go unfilled for such a long period of time. After a short stint as a stay-at-home mom and a substitute teacher, I was recruited by a friend to work with her at a nonprofit. This nonprofit needed somebody to tackle their recruiting issues. They had positions that were open for very long periods of time, and that was taking a deep toll on the business. One of the first things that I did was look at the statistics, the money we've been spending, the actions we've been taking. They were relying very heavily on job posting. This is very expensive too. But not only were they posting jobs and hoping that that would help fill their roles, they were posting in the wrong places. So quickly, I looked at where the ideal candidate is. Are they currently working? What job boards would they look at if they were looking for a job? Beyond job boards, who do we know in our company now who could refer great employees? And is our employee referral program working in our favor? Lastly, I helped them develop a very strong LinkedIn presence, not just for the company, but for the employees at the company. I was able to teach the staff the importance of having an online profile up to date, even when you're not looking for a job, because it's a way for us to attract the right candidates. Over time, we were able to fix the recruitment issue at this organization. We made sure we were posting in the right places, if we were posting at all. I have to say, I've never seen a company get great results with job posting. I don't mind when companies do it a little bit, but it cannot be their sole strategy. The second thing we did was enhance and really publicize that employee referral program and attract people who resonated with our current staff. And lastly, we elevated the company's presence on LinkedIn, as well as the profiles of the employees on LinkedIn. We were able to work together to bridge this disconnect and find the right people that we wanted to bring on board. These strategies also helped us find people who were a strong cultural fit for the organization. Hiring can be expensive. It's a dedication of time and resources, but a bad hire can cost you thousands. The nonprofit organization I mentioned was spinning their wheels, looking for the right people, and a change in strategy helped them hire better than ever. Now let's look at the job seekers' perspective. So many times, job seekers tell me they rely on applying online. And you'll hear me say this throughout the series that I think that they do that because they don't know any other way to job search. I'm a firm believer that job searching is a life skill that we're missing. We're not teaching people of any age how to job search. And unfortunately, they're relying on methods that just don't work. In fact, a recent study I saw said that it's actually easier to get into Harvard than it is to get a job from applying online. Less than 5% get a job applying online. So why do people do it? I believe job seekers rely so heavily on online applications because, again, they don't know anything different. Another issue that job seekers face is that they get ghosted over and over again. They apply online, they might hear back, have a phone screen or an initial interview, and they get ghosted at different steps of that process. Either never hearing back if they apply online, it's like their application went into a black hole, or hearing back, getting started in the process, and then getting ghosted. And this is really like dating, if you think about it. When you're dating someone, you could have a good interaction with someone and you never hear anything back. And it can affect your self-esteem. Job seeking can really have a toll on both your mental health and your financial well-being as well. In addition to job seekers feeling like their resume is going into a black hole, they also feel undervalued, that it's very hard for them to get noticed by a company, and therefore they're spinning their wheels, waiting and waiting for the right opportunity. We know that it historically has taken 5 to 7 months to find a job, and I actually think that that's growing to about 6 to 8 months to find a job. My clients get hired much faster because they're learning different ways to job search and not relying on online applications. But for the most part, job seekers don't even realize what they're doing wrong. In episode 3 of this series, I'm going to give the 6 mistakes and the 6 solutions for it. And I hope that those are valuable to job seekers listening. When I work with job seeker clients, one of the things that I teach them is to look where the hiring managers, the recruiters, or the people they would report to are. There's almost no chance that a hiring manager is going to be looking at resumes that come in from Indeed or even LinkedIn. The hiring manager often has a gatekeeper there, whether it's the recruiter or an administrative person who's looking at resumes before the hiring manager is. I have a client who started figuring out where would the hiring manager be. And we realized that the hiring manager is on LinkedIn, and you can be strategic on LinkedIn to specifically connect with people who work at the company you desire to work at, as well as finding hiring managers and recruiters on LinkedIn for the companies that you want to report to. One of my career clients named Brad decided that he was going to take the networking advice I gave him very seriously. In fact, when we first started working together, he had about 50 connections on LinkedIn, and by the time he got hired, he had well over 500. They weren't just any connection, they're strategic connections that can get him noticed and in front of the right people at the companies he desired to work for. He was able to land a job in 3 months, and it wasn't just a job, it was an opportunity to work in an industry that really interested him. There's a strategy to job searching, and there's many other ways to look for a job besides applying online. I hope you'll follow along in this series so you can learn about them. If we're relying heavily on job search methods that we know do not have a high success rate, it is going to take a long time to find the job you desire. Let's get back to why this disconnect matters and why I feel it's important enough to talk about it in 3 episodes. From the employer side, we know that unfilled jobs cost money. They're a hit to productivity, they lead to team burnout, and they lead to a lack of revenue generation because we simply don't have the right person filling a job to get the results the company needs. We also know that bad hiring leads to employee turnover. A bad hiring decision costs us money in the end and just puts a band-aid on a problem that needs to be fixed with the right candidate. Why does this matter for job seekers? Long job searches take their toll on both mental health and financial well-being. The longer a job search takes, the more you're likely to go through your savings, some 401k, not be able to provide for your family or even provide for yourself. These things take a big toll on us financially. And as I mentioned, long job searches can take a toll on mental health. The confidence that we had going into the job search takes a hit the longer the job search takes place. We know that many job seekers end up taking a job that's not a match for what they're looking for. Maybe at a less salary, maybe at less responsibility, maybe further than they want to drive from home, but they need the money and they need their sanity back because job searching takes a toll. Before I close this first episode in this series, I want to give tips for both sides of the equation, a tip for job seekers and a tip for companies. I want both sides listening to this podcast to have a quick win. If you are listening as an employer or a leader in a company and you're hiring, I encourage you to review your hiring process. Does it start with great job descriptions? Are you seeking candidates in a variety of different ways or relying too heavily on posting? Are your interview guides strong? Do they have questions that relate to the job you're trying to fill? And is everyone trained to effectively select? And if you're a job seeker listening to this episode, I want you to refocus your job search. Stop the mass applying. It almost never works. If we know that over 80% of jobs are found through networking, 80% of the time and energy you put into job searching should match that. I encourage you to leverage LinkedIn to network and go to in-person events in your community where your ideal companies are. Because if they can meet you in person or connect with you on LinkedIn and build that two-way relationship, you have a higher chance of getting noticed. In the next episode, I'm going to dive deep into the mistakes companies are making in the hiring process and how to fix them. You don't want to miss that episode because one simple change could lead to a great hire. To recap this episode, I covered why I believe employers are struggling to find the right people and why job seekers are struggling to find the job that they desire. If you found this episode helpful, subscribe and leave me a review. I would also love to connect with you on LinkedIn. You can find me at Mindy East. And don't forget, success in hiring is a two-way street. Whether you're an employer or a job seeker, when people succeed, businesses thrive. Thanks for tuning into this episode. I'll see you next time.